Welcome back to Real Roots Radio. I'm so glad to welcome bluegrass vocalist and band leader and fellow broadcaster as well, Chris Jones, to our program. How you doing, Mr. Jones?
I'm doing great, Daniel. It is really good to have a chance to talk to you. We don't get to see each other that often, and so this is fun. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for joining us. I know folks are accustomed to hearing you on Bluegrass Junction and on Willie's Roadhouse on Sirius XM and reading your columns in Bluegrass Today, and of course hearing your great bluegrass records as well. I'm excited to chat about Tom T. Hall today. When did your love of Tom T. Hall's music begin?
It started when I was in my early teens, and my dad and my stepmother, who were living in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I spent a lot of time out there. Didn't go to school there, but I was out there summers and learned to drive out there, and actually started to play music seriously there. They had a great country and bluegrass record collection and were real enthusiastic about it. So I credit them, and especially my stepmom, with a lot of my love of the music and a lot of classic country stuff. It's where I became a Charlie Pride fanatic, and they loved Tom T. Hall. And so I got immersed in a lot of those early records of his at a fairly young age.
What about Tom T's songwriting just connects with pretty much everybody that is introduced to his music? What about that personal connection and the way that he delivers a story known as the storyteller, you think makes his writing so unique?
It's just so incredibly it's very unpretentious and it's honest, and everything, virtually everything, is either a true story or it's somebody else's true story. Um, he's never contriving to sell a record or come up with something catchy. He's simply telling a story. Is one of his records called "Eyewitness Life," and that's kind of what it's about. And these are just written down in and they're written extremely 'cause he's a writer of all different kinds. And they're written plainly, but also beautifully and poetically. It's unique, and I don't think there's ever been another writer like that.
Tom T. Hall, member of the Country Music Hall of Fame. He, along with his wife Dixie, members of the Bluegrass Music Hall of Fame. As a youngster getting into Tom T's music, would you ever dream that as you grew up that you would have a friendship with Tom T and Dixie Hall?
Never ever imagined that. I could not have predicted that turn of events. And yeah, we became really close. I really regarded them as kind of like Nashville mom and dad for me. And me and my wife Sally spent a whole lot of time with them, and helped to break in their studio. The song "Man on the Side of the Road" was the first song ever recorded in the studio he'd built. And one thing to know about Tom T was that he was a real Renaissance man, and he was into all sorts of different things, and he was constantly learning and improving and different things. So one day he decided he was going to become a painter, and then and he doesn't just dabble in this stuff. He goes into it, and he decided he wanted to learn audio engineering, and he completed an audio engineering course and I got I think a degree and everything, and built that studio just for the love of the music. And then they just invited their friends, mainly their bluegrass friends, to come over there and start recording. So it was a really interesting era. But I say we spent a lot of time with them. I ended up being a kind of a pancake cook for Fox Hollow for a while. So there were some great get-togethers that happened over there.
For folks that are familiar with Tom T's hit country records, both as an artist and as a songwriter, it may be surprising to know that he and his wife are members of the Bluegrass Music Hall of Fame. But his passion for bluegrass, I know, goes back to him as a young man. He and my grandpa Paul Moon Mullins were even in the Bluegrass Playboys together for a little while. And but what about what about bluegrass music really invigorated Tom T and Dixie in their last, 20 years or so, which seemed to be really the focus of his creative passions in the music world during the last chapters of his career?
I think for him, of course, as you mentioned, it was an early thing for him, and it was for him getting back to his musical roots. And but it had sort of been a thread throughout his career of scoring the country hits because he did that bluegrass album in around 1976 called Magnificent Music Machine. And in those days, it was not a popular thing for a country artist to do a bluegrass record. And so, the advice of the powers that be in Nashville was to downplay that. So they didn't even call it a bluegrass album. They thought this is just a Tom T. Hall record. Turned out to be a great thing to do. And they scored a big hit with Fox on the Run. But it's been a thread throughout his career, but I think something that meant a lot to him, especially from his early musical days. So I think the return to that uh, was great. And then I think for Dixie, this is a whole new community that embraced her and she embraced it. And it was the start of them really co-writing together on a regular basis. They really hadn't done that. And Tom T said that he had retired from the road, but Miss Dixie was still very much busy with her animal project, her charity called Animal Land, and she had him doing various projects for that. And he said, I'm trying to retire here. He said, I'll tell you what, if you retire from Animal Land, we'll just sit around the house and write songs together. What do you think? And so that's how that happened. And so and it was really bluegrass that they were drawn to. And so that's how it started. And they cranked out an awful lot of songs and really became an integral part of the community.
You have recorded several Tom T. Hall songs over the years. We mentioned Pinto, the Wonder Horse is Dead before we started recording this interview. You released a few years ago. A Hero in Harlan, another one from Tom T. and Miss Dixie. Your current single just released is Mama Bake a Pie, Daddy Kill a Chicken, a deep catalog Tom T. Hall song. You mentioned Tom T's writing wasn't pretentious, and this is a great example of that. What makes this song so unique in the Tom T. Hall catalog?
I think because it's a way to tell a tragic story simply from uh, you get inside the head of this young soldier who has come back with two wooden legs and come back from Vietnam, and you just the way this story is told, you are completely inside his head, and inside his head is not just the tragedy of it, but also some humor too. Because there are jokes, and that's another thing that really sets Tom T. Hall apart as a writer. He can deal with these kind of tragic and dark topics, but also have this lighter side and this humor to it. So that is definitely in this song. But this is a song that will kind of make you cry, but there's also, like I say, that you're just right in the head of this guy. It's I think it's an amazing song.
It's so well written, and you're right. It does have some comic relief in addition to talking about some big themes.
Yeah.
Um, eh, you mentioned that Tom T's songwriting wasn't pretentious, and I think it was Ashley Monroe, the country artist, that used this song as an example when she was talking about Tom T in an interview one time. That said Tom T never wrote down to his audience, and sometimes he would say more with what he didn't say. He never explicitly says, spells it out that this guy lost his legs, but it becomes very obvious when listening to the song. He doesn't
Yes.
assume that his audience is stupid, and you
Yeah.
can figure that out with all the different clues and lines in this song as it unfolds. The soldier returning home. It's just a masterpiece.
There's a line in here talking about the humorous side where his drunk uncle says, "Boy, they do some real great things with wood," and at first you don't even know what he's talking about. You think, yeah, he's referring to his legs, and of course, many of us have had uncles like that who would say that, and I had one myself, and just a brilliant line is like you say, without spelling it out, you know exactly what happened. You know how this guy is feeling, and yeah, it's really something. Another thing I want to say, I think doing Tom T. Hall songs is it's a challenge because to me, I don't think he ever got the credit as a singer that he deserves because he also could deliver these songs. Of course, everybody does their own songs in a way that nobody else can, but he could really deliver his songs in a way that is. is hard to match. So I think that the bar is set high. So I didn't take this on lightly. It's not an easy thing to do.
Absolutely. And especially as you mentioned, his delivery was always so on point with his songs. And this one in particular, where part of it is sung and part of it is kind of spoken. It's not straight
Yeah,
recitation, but
yeah,
the delivery is unique, and you
yeah.
nailed it. So
I appreciate that, and like I say, this is a good song, and whenever this comes out in album form, which it will at some point, hopefully in the next year, I want to dedicate this to Peter Cooper, who was a really good friend of his that I know was also a big lover of this song.
one we of course miss our dear friend Mr. Peter Cooper. If folks have never read Tom T. Hall's biography, Peter Cooper kind of reinvigorated Tom T's old biography and got it put back in print in recent years before he passed away. So folks can definitely check that out. He and Tom T were very close, so we definitely miss Mr. Cooper.
Oh yeah, and there's a great chapter on Tom T and lots of other people in this Johnny's Cash and Charlie's Pride. That's another great one to look
Yes.
for.
Oh, that's must have for any country music fans out there. Peter
Yeah.
Cooper's Johnny Cash and Charlie's Pride, kind of his memoirs, but it's all these little vignettes and chapters about figures in the country music business that you have heard of, and some that work behind the scenes what were vital in the
Yeah.
scene. So it's excellent.
Yeah, for sure.
Tom T, no stranger to writing songs that kind of maybe would push the envelope or would be a little controversial. Of course, we all remember Harper Valley PTA, America the Ugly is another one of those. This one touches on some controversial topics as well. What lessons does that teach you as an artist in 2025?
Well, of course, I mean, I think and Tom T did take risks that way and probably got some pushback here and there. But I think even much more so than then, we live in a very sort of politically tense time, a divided time. And so I think hitting people over the head with a message a is not a great thing to do in this day and time. We can learn a lot from Tom T. Hall's approach to social commentary and things like that, to do it subtly, artfully, and like you say, not in a condescending way. And this song is a great example of that too.
Chris, thank you so much for joining me on Real Roots Radio today. It's always great to see you, and even better when we get to talk Tom T. Hall.
Absolutely, Daniel. I appreciate you having me, and it's great to talk to you. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, sir. The latest from Chris Jones, The Night Drivers, available now from Mountain Home Music, is Mama Bake a Pie, Daddy Kill a Chicken.